In the blood-drenched annals of Roman imperial history, few tales reveal the horrific depths of brutality and unchecked power like that of Sporus, a radiant young boy whose grim destiny became entwined with one of history's most infamous despots, Emperor Nero. This is not just a story of politics or conquest. This is a chilling exploration of how absolute power can erase a person's very essence, turning life itself into a macabre theater of imperial fixation. It was 65 AD. The Roman Empire spanned vast continents, its flags soaring from the rugged shores of Britain to the far-off banks of the Euphrates. Rome stood as the ruler of the world, its might seemingly boundless under the reign of Nero Claudius Caesar Augusticus. Yet behind the dazzling veneer of marble and gold, a sinister shadow was taking hold, one that would soon consume an innocent soul. Nero, still in his late 20s, had already stunned Rome with his lavish lifestyle, scandalous stage acts, extravagant building ventures, and fierce outbursts. Now, whispers of the emperor's growing instability spread like mist through the streets, and at the heart of Nero's world stood his splendid palace, the Domus Aurea, the Golden House, a testament to his limitless ego. But even within these opulent halls, an unthinkable horror was about to unfold. Among the many members of Nero's household was a young freedman named Sporus. Though legally free, Sporus had little true protection. He lived under the shadow of an emperor whose whims were absolute and whose desires could be deadly. Historical records describe Sporus as almost otherworldly in his charm, delicate, graceful, possessing a celestial allure that set him apart even among the pampered elite. But in Rome, beauty could be perilous, and for Sporus, it would become his curse. The trigger for his tragedy came with the death of Nero's cherished second wife, Poppaea Sabina. Some claimed Nero had slain her in a furious rage by kicking her during pregnancy. Others blamed childbirth complications. Whatever the cause, Poppaea's sudden death plunged Nero into a spiraling sorrow that quickly turned into a dangerous fixation. And then Nero saw Sporus. Whether by chance or cruel fate, the emperor was struck by the boy's striking resemblance to his late wife. In Sporus's gentle features, Nero saw the shadow of Poppaea and devised a twisted scheme. If death had taken his beloved, he would recreate her, no matter the cost. Nero ordered that Sporus be castrated. The mutilation was not only physical, it was the brutal erasure of the boy's very identity. Sporus was stripped of his manhood, his future, and his dignity, all to fulfill the emperor's deranged grief. Behind the palace's flawless walls, imperial physicians carried out the procedure. Sporus's cries, if any, were muffled by cold marble and imperial apathy. But this was only the start. Nero declared to the empire that he would wed Sporus, publicly presenting him as the reincarnation of Poppaea. Draped in the late empress's silks and gems, Sporus was renamed Sabina and paraded before Rome as Nero's new bride. The wedding was a grim spectacle, with all the splendor and ceremony of a royal marriage. Sporus, now clad in ornate women's attire, was led through the rituals of Roman matrimony, while the court stood in stunned silence. The Senate, aristocracy, and foreign dignitaries watched as Nero proclaimed his devotion to this living puppet. What unfolded afterward was perhaps even more unsettling. Sporus was forced to accompany Nero everywhere as his empress, at feasts, at the theater, during public appearances, always playing the part of Poppaea, always under the gaze of a Rome that watched in quiet disgust. Roman citizens, used to the oddities of emperors, were deeply troubled by this display. They saw through the illusion. Behind the shimmering robes and jewels was not Poppaea, but a mutilated boy who bore the subtle, chilling marks of surgical violence. To maintain the illusion, Sporus was required to act entirely as a woman, walking, speaking, and behaving as Nero demanded. Any slip, any failure to perfectly embody Poppaea could provoke Nero's fierce wrath. Yet, at times, Nero showered him with gifts and affection, creating a devastating cycle of reward and punishment. Behind the public spectacle lay a private prison of unimaginable mental torment. Sporus was not simply pretending to be someone else, he was forced to become someone else. Every aspect of his self was systematically erased, replaced with Nero's obsessive vision. This was identity theft on a horrific scale, not of name or title, but of existence itself. Even as Sporus endured this cruel existence, the empire around him teetered on the brink of collapse. Nero's reign became increasingly erratic. The Senate, military leaders, and even his personal guard began to turn against him. By 68 AD, rebellion sparked across the empire. Facing universal rejection, Nero fled Rome with only a few loyal supporters, Sporus among them. The young man who had never chosen any part of this nightmare now found himself fleeing alongside his tormentor. As the empire crumbled, Nero's final days were filled with delusional fantasies and desperate plans. But eventually, cornered and betrayed, he chose suicide over capture. Even in death, Sporus remained trapped. After Nero's suicide, Sporus was not freed. Instead, he became a morbid prize passed from one powerful man to another during the chaotic year of the four emperors. First claimed by Emperor Galba, Sporus lived in lavish captivity, still partially performing his forced role. Then he was handed to Otho, who reportedly treated him with some degree of kindness. But Otho's rule was short-lived, and soon Vitellius seized power, ushering in the final, most degrading chapter of Sporus's life. Vitellius devised a public spectacle so vile that even Rome, in all its decadence, shuddered. He planned to force Sporus into the arena to reenact the rape of Pasiphae, a theatricalized sexual assault staged for public amusement. After years of mutilation, forced identity, and psychological torture, Sporus faced the prospect of ultimate humiliation, being publicly violated before thousands of cheering spectators. At last, confronted with this final horror, Sporus made one final desperate choice. He took his own life. In death, Sporus reclaimed what had been denied to him throughout his suffering, the right to choose his own fate. His suicide was a quiet, tragic act of defiance against a world that had stolen his body, his identity, and his life. Rome hardly mourned his passing. To the empire, he had become nothing more than a footnote in Nero's legacy, a broken toy discarded when no longer entertaining. But in truth, Sporus's story remains one of history's most chilling examples of how absolute power can twist love into obsession, grief into cruelty, and life into spectacle. The tragedy of Sporus forces us to confront the darkest corners of human nature. His story is not merely about one man's madness, but about a system that allowed such cruelty to exist, a world where human lives were playthings to be bent, reshaped, or destroyed at the whim of an emperor. And yet, within this horror, there lies a spark of resilience. For even after years of forced transformation and degradation, Sporus's final act was not one of submission but of rebellion. In remembering Sporus, we honor not only his suffering, but his final refusal to be completely broken. His story stands as a haunting reminder of both the monstrous capacities of power and the fragile, unbreakable dignity of the human spirit. If you found Sporus's haunting tale as powerful as I did, consider subscribing for more dark and forgotten stories from history's shadows. Leave a comment. What do you think of Nero's terrifying